Hello, Penguin. Okay. Hello, Reason Bees. Hello. Hello, hello. Hey there, Teufel. Chris. Fox. Fox, but then I'm not sure about the rest. Fox Bill. No, Fox Beat. Of course. I got it. Sorry. I'm what can I say? Hello, hello. S17. And work doesn't animate emotes? No, it doesn't, unfortunately. I never gotten around implementing that. Eventually, I'll get there. Eventually, I will get there, but man, the pile of priorities is only growing longer. What can I say? You know, one day I'll be an old man, white beard, maybe white hair, maybe no hair. We'll see. And you know, I'll be living on my own in the countryside, um, raising my chickens, and finally getting around implementing animated emotes in my Twitch client. Twitch will be long dead by then, probably. But well, no, you know, not exactly long dead. Long dead, that doesn't really happen, right? In the web as much. It will be like just another boomer platform that only boomers use to do boomer stuff. And I'll be old by then for sure, but I promise you, you won't see me using any boomer platform. So maybe I will working on animated emotes for my Twitch client, but you will not see me on Twitch by then. This is Facebook what you described? I mean, today, yeah. But the thing is, there used to be a time when Facebook was not for boomers. There used to be a time where Facebook was for new people and old boomers, you know, relatively speaking, relative boomers at the time, they were using other things. So, you know, it's an always moving target. What is cool and new and hip one day becomes boomer tech the next. I feel that Twitter has become boomer tech. It's like it is like it has had, in my opinion, for a while, the arc of tech that was about to become for boomers. But then when Elon Musk bought it, I feel like that process accelerated a lot more. Twitter had for a while what it had going for it is that it was really like an almost authoritative source of information. Actually, maybe you can even take out the almost. It was an authoritative source of information when it came to a lot of things. But then after Elon Musk took over, um, the platform just lost that role for a variety of reasons. Partially because of what changes that he made, partially because just people were not happy with him, and so they deliberately decided to pull away. And so now today, um, X doesn't seem to be nearly as authoritative as Twitter was at the apex of its arc. Are you planning on supporting these kinds of streams on a Weibo? You mean Twitch style? No, because Twitch style streams, like, so you can join a voice call and then do screen share for the people in the voice call, and the server will be able to, you know, shoulder the load of transferring data around. But the problem is, on something like Twitch, it's a one to many stream. Like we are already, I see 25 viewers right now. My streams are usually, you know, 50 people watching. Maybe I get rated, maybe it's a good day, whatever. Maybe I'm doing something particularly interesting and it gets up to 70 something. Which again these are obviously rookie numbers, but even then, you can't in Discord, for example, enter a voice call and have 70 people watch you, I believe, do the screen share. I might be wrong. Maybe they support it now. maybe with stage channels they had support. But the point is, a single server, like a single node dealing with all the traffic, is not really dealing with all the traffic in the context of a real-time voice call. That's tough. You start hitting resource limits, or you have to ramp up your the hardware that you use significantly. Architecture like the one in Twitch, there's extra delay involved, way more delay than you would want to have in a real-time voice call. But then in exchange, it's able to serve to a significantly larger number of people, right? You can see people, like there are streamers that have hundreds of thousands of people watching, and that works. Yeah, distribution trees. I mean, ultimately, that's kind of how it has to work, right? There has to be some load balancing of some kind happening somewhere. So, um, that I would say is at least to some degree out of scope for a Weibo voice calls. Or let me put it this way: I would say it is out of scope for a Weibo voice channels as they're being implemented right now. But the thing is, we can make our own channels. Like the concept of a channel is just ultimately it's just a piece of UI language designed around the idea that we all agree what should be happening, what type of interactions should be happening when you click on that thing. So a text channel is just a UI handle, a UI element that you click on where you expect to find text messages. But, we could have a draw channel where you click on it and you get a grid of pixels and everybody's drawing in it, because that's the interaction that you expect to have once you click on it. So we could have a different type of voice channel maybe we wouldn't call it voice channel. Like we could have a live stream channel where the idea of the live stream channel is that it's a setup like the one that I just described with regards to Twitch. So it could be done in theory. You fairly quickly reach into very niche territory though. And also there's the question of, is this the right way of implementing it? Because another argument for how to do this stuff is that for live streams, you kind of want the live stream to be as accessible as possible. So you kind of would like for it to be exposed to the internet, not hidden inside a Weibo server. Maybe that is not as true. Maybe you could argue that you don't want to have your thing exposed to the internet because of a variety of reasons. Maybe because it's an members only stream. Okay. Maybe because you fear bots that are gonna slurp up all your data. And when I say data, I don't mean that it's bad because they use your videos for training, whatever. I mean, they're gonna like saturate your bandwidth by slurping up, by showing up as a bajillion clients all at the same time. So I don't know. Maybe there are arguments there. I read that MySpace wants to try and have a comeback. I mean, technically, all these platforms wish they would be able to have a comeback, but whether that's gonna happen, that's a different story. I'll say one last thing about like live streams and Weibo. I do have the impression that given how things are shaping up with the internet as a whole, that there is clearly a renewed interest as of late in having more what would be the right word? Secluded communities. The secluded. I think there might be some other words that describe this same concept, but with a slightly different nuance. But you know what? Fuck it. Secluded is good enough. Like I think there's a renewed interest in building communities that are, in a sense, like cozy. Not everybody has access to them. They're not necessarily, super hidden where you have to get a tattoo and, do a blood sacrifice or something in order to be part of it. But for example, well, I mean, that's for example something that Discord does give you. In any case, setting aside Discord, I do think there's a renewed interest in this kind of stuff. And so you could argue that maybe something like a Weibo could play into this. But I do wonder if this is not something that maybe it would make more sense for people to tackle at a more fundamental level. With the idea being that you. I'm by the way, I'm making this up. Like the technology for this, for what I'm about to describe, already exists, probably in a variety of shapes and forms that you could use today if you wanted to. They are all ultra niche. Um, but my point is that I think they are starting to gain a little bit more momentum than what they did in the past. And I'm talking about like the idea where somehow you are invited to join a network. What does it mean to join a network? Joining the network means that you literally set up some kind of tooling that sets up a connection to the network where you have a maybe it is still IP, but it's a separate network. Kind of like you can create your own private one, right? With Tailscale, something like that. But it is not as private. Tailscale, I believe it's essentially for your own stuff. Maybe your company could set up Tailscale, I guess. But the idea is that it's something where it's a group of people that have a shared interest or some reason to want to come together and do things in a not maximally private way, but neither to do things fully exposed to the internet. I think that the people will want to start and create these, I don't know what to call them, villages, tribes, whatever, this kind of stuff. Yeah, well, ultimately, these things do end up being VPNs in a sense. Yeah, you set it up, that opens a connection, and yeah, it's a virtual private network. Yep. There is one that I think I heard about is this one, Reticulum. Although Reticulum, I think it's not exactly what I described, but I think it can be used for that purpose. So Reticulum is like a network. There's also this one that people mentioned recently because these are all things that popped up in relation to discussions about Radical. Freenet, I think. I think this is I think Freenet is a Futo project. There's also Iro. Yeah, right. So Freenet, peer-to-peer platform for apps that no company controls. Your computer becomes part of a global network. The apps running cannot be taken down, can track you. No need for servers behind them. I mean, these are, there's a lot of claims. I don't know all the details, so I don't know to what degree this stuff is as exactly as written on the tin and to what degree it matters. Actually, you know what? I'm also not sure whether Freenet is shaped the way that I described. Like, is this something that is geared towards creating smaller communities? I don't know. I don't know. But let me put it this way. There has been, for the longest time, the internet. And then at some point, people started experimenting with cryptographic stuff, and that gave birth to the darknet, right? With where all the illegal stuff happens. But it doesn't have to be this way. It's not. Probably never was this way. That's just a way of looking at it, a narrative, if you will. But if you create multiple networks that act like that have cryptography involved, where you can only gain access through some other social mean, some of which will be full of illegal stuff, of course. That always happens, but not necessarily all of them. And yeah, I think that will be a way of creating smaller communities. To be fair, you can create also smaller communities, without cryptography, without any of that, just with the normal internet. But I think that people are going to be more interested in this stuff going forward. We'll see. I might be totally wrong. Okay, talk about our own stuff. Speculation hat. You can join the low latency room by providing restreams to other people. That is a very interesting take on this. That is that is a very interesting take on this. Yeah, that's one way in which you could make it work. To be fair, you know what? Talking about IRO and peer-to-peer networks, again, I have no idea how Freenet works behind the scenes, because they you know, I'm starting to get a little bit opinionated looking at these things. Um, and this is the wrong way of going at it, in my opinion. Like, trying to present the final big picture, the final plan. Like, if these things works, then there's going to be a bunch of these applications. They're going to be decentralized. No company controls them and whatnot. But like, who cares? Like, it's not enough to sell me that maybe this will work. But the same end overall result could also work in a variety of different ways. There's just not enough information about how the lower level stuff works. So like, Radical won me because it made clear enough the lower level stuff, and it allowed me to come up on my own with what I expect the overall bigger scale interactions to become. And that is more powerful. That is the way I think you should go at it. You explain correctly in an elegant manner the individual components, the individual pieces, and then the audience has to do the jump and realize what that implies. Every time you try to do it yourself and present it to them, those are wasted words. Freenet has a long history. Used to be a Java project back in the day. Oh. Sorry, as I was saying, talking about IRO, you know what? Maybe one could argue that it would make sense to create a Twitch-style streaming thing for something like a Weibo based on IRO. I think that in that context, IRO would make sense. Maybe. I don't know. Okay, what are we doing today? So, we left ourselves some to-dos from yesterday. This is scary shit. New Freenet is basically smart contracts without blockchain. A very specific idea. IRO reticulum are much more network layer specific. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, thank you. I see smart contracts. I don't love the idea. Oh, but that makes sense. I guess smart contracts, that makes sense. So if you have a service without a server controlled by anybody in particular, that implies a bunch of smart contracts running on a bunch of different people's computers, essentially replicating the same computation a bunch of times, right? That's how you make a service without one company controlling it. Frankly, I don't find it all that I do not find it all that interesting. To me, that smells a lot like trying to use technology to solve human problems, and not understanding that those are human problems that should be solved by humans. That being said, I obviously don't understand a lot about Freenet, and I'm sharing my current perspective. I do reserve the right to change my mind as I learn more. Is Awebo finished? Yeah, we're already working on Awebo 4, actually. It's a pre-sequel set in the 1800s, bunch of DLCs, alternative playable characters, and no, sorry, a whip. Yeah, carrier pigeons. Awebo is right now. Awebo compiles for macOS, compiles for Linux, does not compile for Windows because that has not been unregressed yet. Their Teufel has done some work there, but apparently there's more that is missing. And today I'm gonna start with this. I'm gonna try to replicate, to reproduce the server crash that I was able to trigger as I was testing stuff yesterday. And if I'm able to reproduce it, I'll try to diagnose it. Yesterday I completed the work of I fixed all the known, so not all of them necessarily, but all the known ones, all the known bugs, concurrency bugs in the mini audio backend implementation. So that means that if you launch a Weibo client today on Mac and Linux, you should get a it shouldn't crash. The client shouldn't crash anymore. So if I'm not wrong, like if I'm right, this means that like genuinely a Weibo should be usable for voice calls. But the next step would be this. This would be the next necessary step. Yeah, actually, if I had to prioritize this, what? Oh, come on. Okay, that's how it would have to be. This should be first priority, second priority, third priority. Although, man, Linux screen share. Do you think 017 is getting tagged this month? 16th of August? I will answer you with confidence levels. I would say 50% chance that it gets tagged by the end of August. 90% chance that it gets tagged by the end of September. Yeah. Anyway, related to what we were looking at yesterday. So people that were watching, we diagnosed why we would fail to run Zig fetch off of repositories on my Radical node. And the answer is that we learned, I actually, by the way, I never learned how Git works on the wire, like what the Git protocol looks like. And yeah, so this is what you get from Git over HTTP when you make a request with the right shape. And it turns out that there's a V1 and a V2 wire protocol. And ZigFetch only implements V2, which has replies look like this. So this is a V1 reply. Just look at the general shape of it. This is a V2 reply. And it turns out the Radical ignores the request header that requests version 2 of the protocol. And it gives you a V1 reply no matter what. And that was tripping up the Zig client, the Zig Git client, because it expected a V2 reply. So yeah, so people replied to me. And if I understand correctly, it means that they're this thing radical HTTPD, which I think it's something that they have. I think it's something that they have in here. Or not. Or wait, it's inside Heartwood, maybe. Crates. Do. No, never mind. I see radical stuff, but there's no radical HTTPD. So where the heck is radical HTTPD? There we go. So it is its own repository. It's just not pinned like the other ones. Wait, what? It's a container. So I guess it's part of the config in here. Build.conf. Hmm. Oh, under creates radical HTTPD in the Explorer repo. Oh, thank you. Okay, so Explorer. You're right. Okay, so this is this bad boy. Yeah, but you know, in any case, I don't think. Look, I don't know how to read Rust source code, and all the abstraction gives me headaches. So I'm not gonna do that. And I also think that this is not something that is necessarily wrong in the source code itself. This is probably an integration thing. Like I'm guessing that part of the deployment process uh, is what um, is what should worry about that header. Although you know what, I might be wrong. They might have some header handling also in here. Who knows? Who knows? Yeah, I bet you that one of these guys is an HTTP server, and at some point it deals with headers. In any case, that's not for us to worry about. But thank you for the pointer. Let's see. Doesn't Andrew have another talk sometime soon? I remember him saying that he got two upcoming talks before Software Should Work. No, the two talks that he had were Software Should Work and Systems Distributed, and both conferences already happened. So he's free from talk duty for a while. The next talk he has to worry about is going to be Software You Can Love in October. I started learning Zig recently, and I went through 50% of Zig links. Halfway, I felt like I'm not learning enough, and I needed some sort of project to connect things in my brain. Any advice? Yes, some. So, uh, ziglang.org, learn section, make sure that you have scrolled through the language reference. Standard library documentation is useful, but it's incomplete. Like this is the reference doc for the standard library. It's automatically generated from the source code, but this is not a. This tool is POC, so it's not super high quality. Do not be afraid to read source code in the Zig standard library. Not all of it will be immediately obvious to you if you're new, but your goal should be to to be capable of reading the Zig Analyzer source code. I know that there are other languages where this should not be considered a goal. Zig is not one of them. You should be able to. You should aim to be able to do that. Your source of truth is not what the Sana library documentation says. Your source of truth for what the Sana library can or cannot do is the Sana library source code. It is expected of you eventually to, stand on your own 2 feet and be able to read that. Then online learning resources can be useful. Ziggin is listed in them. The book is good. Zig guide is good. Zig on exorcism also good. Then what else? There are also other books. This one is free. There are also other books that you have to pay for. Careful, because some of them are slop, and like not just it's generated by AI or with the AI assistant, thus I consider them slop. No, I mean like proper scams, like slop, like the good slop. So avoid those. Then join a community so that you can get unblocked whenever you get blocked. The Zig programming language Discord has a very healthy help section. There is Ziggit also, which is a very active forum. Then, that's a good starting point. Then another recommendation is Zig.day. If you have a Zig day near you, go join that Zig day. This is one near where I live in Milan. This one is fairly active. There's another very active one in Nuremberg. This one runs very regularly, really good, well attended. The one in Bristol, if you're outside of Europe, like if you're in the UK, the Bristol one has also MLAG in it. If you're not a European, if you happen to be in Japan, there's one in Osaka. Otherwise, West Coast. These ones are not really active. Portland is very active. This one has Andrew. Seattle is fairly active also. On the East Coast, New York is active enough. Like if you see here, they run it a bunch. They run one also in August. I think they also run another event, at least here between August and January. They just forgot to announce it in here because it's an event that is run in connection to the repair center. So I guess they announced it through other channels and forgot to put it here. Just a guess. So Zig Day is also really good. These are not meetups. They are like, how can I say? They are meetups, but they are not meetups in the sense that you meet at the end of the day for like to listen to a talk, eat some pizza provided by a sponsor, and then call it a day. These run on the Saturday. You're in Egypt. Yeah, nothing there for now. But they are full day events. Let me put it this way. If you ever happen to be able to travel and you happen to be near a place that has a Zig Day, I highly recommend you try to stop by if you get the opportunity. In any case, they are full day in-person events where you spend essentially the entire day working on projects, open source projects with other people. So it's a different type of format, significantly different. Okay, last piece of advice, which actually is the one that answers your question more directly. Here's my golden rule. As you're learning Zig, try to learn Zig doing something in a domain that you know roughly at the same level at which you know Zig. As a counter example, if you are somebody who has a lot of knowledge creating web services, so you've done all your life, I don't know, like backend services, and you know how to do this stuff very well, as you're learning Zig, I strongly suggest you do not try to make a web service using Zig. Why? Because chances are that if you've never done lower level programming, you have to learn all the basics, and you will get frustrated really easily because you know very well how to make a web service using a higher level programming language, but now using a lower level programming language, a lot of things are just significantly harder. And so there's like this huge impedance mismatch between what you used to be able to do and what you are able to do now, which is a lot less. And so you will get super annoyed. So avoid this. Don't do that. What you want to do is try something new. And it's also a good opportunity to maybe get your feet wet in a domain that previously was locked away from you because, you know, it was something that required real-time performance or like the ability to do things precisely in a way that you just cannot do in a higher level programming language with a garbage collector running around all the time. So related to this, a good way of going at it is looking at prepackaged experiences. So if you look at, for example, crafting interpreters, this is a book that you can also read for free online, I believe, that teaches you how to write a tiny interpreted programming language for which you write an interpreter and maybe also even a compiler. I'm not sure. The title says that at the very least you'll learn how to write an interpreter for it. Let's see what it says. There, I see code generation. So if you're doing code generation, you're probably, oh, look at this, machine code. So yeah, you're writing a compiler as well. This is one. Another one could be ray tracing in a weekend. Teaches you how to do ray tracing. Again, book available for free online in a weekend, so you know this is scoped in something that will take you a couple of days, maybe 3 days, but not a lot more than that. And you will learn how to write a ray tracer. Chances are that you've never done it. I did this myself a while ago. It was a good experience. The book gives you C++ code samples, so it's going to be on you to translate those to Zig, but it's not that hard. And you can ask for help in communities. And also you can find on the internet examples of people that have gone through this. My example, like my code is available on GitHub, but also other people's. So, yep. Another one is operating system in 1,000 lines. This one is more bit fiddly, so you need to be more comfortable with executable file formats and whatnot. So linker scripts, yeah, CPU registers, that kind of stuff. But if you're curious, this really teaches you how to write an operating system in 1,000 lines of code. A super bare bones one, but complete enough to have task switching, which is cool. So, yeah, these are some ideas. These are prepackaged, so you know that they're going to lead you to success because all you have to do is essentially follow the instructions. If you get stuck, ask somebody exactly how to get past the point that you got stuck, and then you can continue to make progress following along the book. If you want to be more adventurous, then obviously you can pick your own adventure and do something different. What I would suggest at that point is maybe you could re-implement some CLI tool that you've seen in the past, you know, like grep or cat, ls, one of those. Or you could try your hand at doing something completely different, maybe something related to audio. You might enjoy that as well. My recommendation is, though, start with something not too ambitious. Because it's easy to think, oh, I'm going to try something that is in reality really ambitious, and you just don't realize that that is the case. If you will, that's ultimately the theme of software engineering, right? We don't do these things because they're easy. We do them because we thought they would be easy. So just be a little bit aware about this. That's it. I want to get started in database internals for a while. I will do that in Zig. Awesome. Yeah, for sure. You can write your own Redis, for example. That's also cool. Not exactly a database, but, you know, close enough. You can also write clients for databases. and see what other clients look like. So the idea is you write a client, not necessarily with the intent of, making the ultimate client library that everybody should use. If that is going to be your first Zig project as you're learning, chances are that you're not going to make anything, super polished. But you can certainly do that for learning purposes. And actually, if you keep at it long enough, at some point you will start getting opinionated about other people's clients, and you will be able to have your own take on how a client should be structured after a while. You know what? That reminds me. I usually tend to not name these people because they've annoyed me via email for so fucking long, and I've never replied to their stupid fucking emails about asking me to do ads for them. You know what? I'll do an ad for free. Code Crafters. They have. So first of all, you know what? Don't give these people money. Here's my anti-ad. Don't give these people fucking money. But if you can get something for free, they have like build your own Redis, which I think also allows you to do this in Zig. I guess they have this thing in a bunch of different languages, right? Yeah, and including Zig. I have no idea if their Zig version of this is any good. So I don't know. Oh, wait, this is build your own shell. This is build your own Redis. They seem to have Zig as well. Okay, what about build your own Kafka? They claim to have Zig. Do they really have Zig for everything? Holy shit. Okay, in any case, this is another thing that you can use. I did like half of build your own shell for free. Does that mean that the second half of it is paid? On the topic of CLI, wait. Let me catch up with whatever everyone was saying. Hello, Koteinik. I have a question about Zig, about SED, SIMD, repeat. So if you're still around, feel free to ask your question. I'm not a SIMD expert, so I don't know if I will be able to help you, depending on how nuanced your question is. But you know what? Worst case, maybe somebody else in chat will be able to do that. I would argue that starting with C is better for people who are not familiar with lower level programming. Even 1 month of learning C will help a ton, and concept will make sense afterwards. I think this might be, maybe this might work for some people, but my personal opinion is that I would prefer starting with Zig than with C, with the goal of learning lower level programming. Obviously, there are a lot of compromises in starting with Zig, with regards of what documentation is available and whatnot. But I still think that despite all of this, it's still a path of least resistance, in my opinion. On the topic of CLI tools, have there been some internal discussions on argument parsing? Because I've seen some PRs open, but none are merged. Yes. If you go check those PRs again, you will see that there are being updates. So long story short, the topic is, for everybody else listening, the topic is having a CLI parser included in the Zig standard library. Long story short, there have been some proposals. They have all been rejected, but they have been all been rejected because there have been discussions in the core team, and essentially we have looked at all the different takes. These PRs came also with reasonings about the different design philosophies, so they weren't just like strictly an implementation. So we looked also at the different philosophies, the different ways of approaching, and that was those perspectives, in a sense, were also enhanced. Well, in any case, we put our own spin on it, if you will, and so now we have a proposal for exactly how the CLI parser for the Zig standard library should work, which is not a close match to any one of those specific implementations. But some ideas were stolen from one or the other. And so I don't know who is working on it right now. But in any case, we now have a proposal where, as soon as somebody submits a PR that matches what the proposal requests, it's going to be merged. So not there yet, but it's coming. Hey, Bredel. Good afternoon. By the way, are you going to be at Zigtoberfest? Oh, you just stopped. Okay. Take a look at this exercise. I think the SED SIMD repeat is so confusing. Okay. Let's take a look at what let's take a look also at what SIMD repeat is supposed to be precisely. And you know what? I'll take my own advice, and instead of looking at the online thing, I'm going to open a random file, and I'm going to type in here std.simd.repeat, and I'm going to go definition on it. So I'm going to read it from the standard library, from the horse's mouth. Returns a vector containing the same elements as the input, but repeated until the desired length is reached. Okay, so repeat 1, 2, 3 8 times. It's going to be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then it stops once it runs out. And it gives you that as a vector. Okay. Let's see. Zig has one array operator. You can use ++ to concatenate two arrays. I think this exercise had to be changed recently because there used to be also ***, which doesn't exist anymore. Oh, you're going to be at Oktoberfest? Cool. By the way, just letting you know in case that you haven't and would be interested, know that there's also going to be a Zig Day connected to it. It's going to be the day after. So if you have the the ability and or the interest of joining, be aware that that thing has a separate registration. Actually, I think that thing has actually 2 tickets. One, morning only for attending the official founding meeting of Eurozig, and then a second subscription ticket. I mean, it's free, so you don't have to pay for it, but like a second registration that you have to do for the Zig date, which is going to be essentially after lunch. Okay, so ++, blah, 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 145. Okay, so far so good. Note that ++ only operates on arrays while your program is being compiled. That is not true. I think that used to be true, but no, this ++ is able to operate also on runtime arrays. So what I think this is meant to point out is that, or rather, I don't know what this is meant to point out. There used to be a time where, yes, both, like if you wanted to do A ++ B, both A and B had to be comtime known values. Otherwise, it wouldn't work. But now, today, what matters is that the lengths of these arrays, well, the types of these arrays are known, but then A and B can have runtime values, and that will still work out correctly. So essentially, this will, when A and B, at least one of the two is runtime known, what will happen is that this is going to be, this is going to clear C of the right size, which is going to be the combined size, and it's just going to memcopy. You mean there is a Munich Zig Day on the 30th? Not sure where to find it. Yes. Okay, give me a sec. I'll try to find information about it. I know that it exists, but I haven't looked myself. In any case, so please set this array concatenating into arrays before. Okay, so this is fine, right? That's all E plus plus et, then please set this array using repetition. It should result in 100110011 What does using repetition mean? For the curious, simd.repeat. So for now, don't worry about the use of simd. Just repeat 100. Yeah, but isn't repeat? Yeah, but isn't repeat star star, which is gone. I think that this should be deleted because I'm guessing that earlier iteration of this exercise would make you use plus plus and star star. So yes, this would have been 1101 star star 3. So I think that this exercise is vestigial. Either that, or I would expect repetition to have been already introduced as a concept in some way, but it's not. And the fact that I know that star star doesn't exist anymore, just to be clear, are we looking at the head commit? Yeah, we're looking at the head commit. Can we see the history? Is this going to give me the history of this? Updated the exercise to use simd. Oh, splat. Wait. Yeah, you can splat. Have they introduced splat? I'm guessing they must have introduced splat in a previous exercise, right? So yeah, you can splat. Holy cow, is this a mouthful? Yeah, I don't know. I don't love this. I would say that if they have introduced splat already, then you can get rid of this exercise. But otherwise, if they haven't, there's no mention of it, and I think there might be better examples for splat. Hello, Quint. Okay, anyway, the problem here is the len variable. What value should be there in your opinion? Yeah, it should be what, 1, 2, 3, 4 times 3. But wait, okay, let me see, because this is then used downstream. So what are we trying to do? For now, don't worry about the use of simd. Okay, bit pattern unit. Oh wait, okay, I finally get it. So this is the bit pattern unit. Okay, it took me a while to understand. So wait. So what they're doing is, here you literally hard code 1001. You set the length to 12, and then you use repeat. Wait, I actually read. Oh my god, where have I go? Where have I gone? Hello? Okay, I have to reopen this. I don't know what happened. um, we were looking also at the patch. So they removed splat, right? Because this is what it was before. So they killed splat. So we were supposed to put in unit, yes, the beat pattern, and then do 3 times the length of that thing, and then it gets used into SIMD repeat. Okay, so what is unclear is that you're not supposed to put the final output in here. This is just like these are steps that allow you to then get here this. It clearly reads like we are repeating 12 times. That would be a legitimate way of looking at it. That said, my suggestion is, you know what? I agree that the name is not optimal. In any case, my suggestion is always read the doc comment. The doc comment, and you know what? Read the doc comment, and even if, especially if there is no doc comment, but I would even say regardless, read also the implementation. That's how you know what the truth is. I agree that repeat could be definitely interpreted in a different way. That said, you know, I immediately went and read the doc comment, and so now I knew from the start that this was supposed to not repeat 8 times, but to repeat the pattern to fill up an 8 element vector. Yeah. Okay, I now understand what's going on. So this is supposed to be 1001. This is supposed to be 3 times the length of the unit. And then this is supposed to do the SIMD repeat. There is some gymnastics going on that definitely detract from following the reasoning of what's going on. I would agree. Um, for whatever it's worth, these exercises have started with a narrative in mind that over time has had to adapt to changes in the language. Like I can promise you, I think I can definitely see it. That this exercise was supposed to show you originally plus plus and star star. And so you were doing some plus plusing and also some star starring. But now star star is gone and you have splat. But then splat doesn't allow you to how can I say, to trivially um splat multiple elements, right? Because splatting multiple elements essentially it's asking you to create an array of arrays. But they want you to do the flattened version, and so now the flattened version with splat is awkward, and so they changed it to use SIMD repeat. So I think the answer is that this exercise should probably be re-engineered from the ground up. I would argue that it should. You know what? I don't know exactly what it should look like, but some deeper redesign work should happen. In any case, my recommendation is the takeaway for you should be uh, make sure that you have the tooling that allows you to go to definition and do that. When in doubt, and also when not in doubt, go to definition. Anyway, so what were we saying? Um, to do to do. What are core projects Zig should have since Ban left for good? What? What does core project mean in the context of your sentence? Can you describe what you mean by core project? In the meantime, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm going to look after my radical issues, and then we're gonna hop onto this. Wait, also I owe Befredel a link, I think. Um, okay, let me see where I can find that info. Mm-mm-mm. I think I got it in an email, but they should definitely publish this stuff. Oh, okay. I have the answer. They don't have it up yet. Okay, so they sent out an email saying that for the people that signed up in before, they had a thing online that they took down because the original location canceled. So it's not up yet. They sent an email saying for the people that had already signed up that they could convert their sign up, but that they would put on online again the thing at some point. I'm guessing in the next few days, but this has not happened yet. So long story short, now you know, but there's nothing that can be done yet. Yeah. But I guess if you are booking travel, I guess my recommendation would be if you want to be there, try to also have an extra day so you can stay on Sunday. That would be it. Doo-doo-doo. Okay, I know Tiger Beetle Ghosty, but what would you call these projects core? What are they core to? Like what I would consider a core project is something that provides a critical piece of functionality to the ecosystem. So like ROCC would be a core project. You could argue maybe some. Yeah, actually, you know what? I'm not even sure past that what I would consider core. Maybe a game engine, maybe, libraries like that. Like, at the very least, a core project has to be something that helps Zig programmers be more productive, more effective um, at writing Zig programs. So you could argue that Tiger Beetle and Ghosty are, yeah, ZLS. You could argue is a core project. Yeah, that's fair. Um, so you could argue that these are notable projects. They are big projects. They are, I don't know, projects that give you visibility to Zig. But I mean, but then it's wrong to ask the question of which we should have. You don't get to pick. The way it works is that you give people the tools and then they make stuff with them with it, and then some of the stuff that they make ends up being successful, and those becomes, you know, popular projects. But you don't get to pontificate on what those should be. Started seeing the rad repos, still getting used to it. Nice. Do you know Traction Point? Yes. Developing Zig, the dev has a great video about it. Yes, Traction Point is a nice project. MicroZig, thank you. MicroZig is another project that I think it would be fair to consider a core project. I mean, the thing is that usually when you say core, though, that seems to be something that is run officially, but is ZSF. And in that sense, it's the compiler itself and translate C that are core projects. Everything else is not really core in that sense. They are community projects. But, within the realm of community projects, which are more fundamental, MicroZig would be one, ZLS would be one. These are good suggestions. Thank you. But let me conclude my answer. This is the wrong way of looking at it. It doesn't matter. Sure, if your language is useful, eventually somebody should make something good with it and something popular. But while this is a nice to have, it's not something that is worth worrying about. That's it. So don't stress. And if instead you are interested in seeing projects like this because you're shopping for a programming language and you would like to see something that gives you confidence that the language is going places and is successful, and maybe you yourself don't feel confident in being able to evaluate the specific features and the development philosophy that the language has, so you would like to see successful examples in order to give you confidence that that's the path that you should take. Then I don't know. Then it would be reasonable to say that maybe Zig is a little bit too early, or uncertain, dangerous, whatever you wanna call it. Okay. Okay. A general Zig question. Currently, Zig build tests will not run tests not in imported modules. Yeah. So one has to either import them explicitly in tests of the root file or configure it in the build.zig. I find it quite inconvenient. Is there a reason behind that? It stems from the model that the compiler uses for compiling code. I think that there has been some discussion in trying to simplify this process a little bit, or in a sense, let's say, making it less error prone. Yeah, but I think this doesn't have. This has the Zigtoberfest link, right? But it doesn't have. It doesn't have a link to the sign up thing. Yeah, I think that. By the way, I looked at this also myself earlier. I think that you will see a new entry in here when it goes live. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, there are some discussions on about trying to simplify this, but in general, in general, the idea is that sometimes you have some complicated testing setup, and you want to be able to manipulate exactly how these tests are bundled into an executable, depending on things that you want to do with your build script. So I've done it myself. It's not something that you maybe need to do every day, but it's also not something, unthinkable where, unless you're Google, you don't care. That kind of stuff where it's like only the big tech companies care about this stuff. No, it's definitely way more frequent than that. So it's the same idea of why is the Zig build system so complicated, right? Versus being, no build system like Go, for example. Go is awesome up until you start needing things that up until you start needing to personalize how the build happens depending on certain conditions, and then you hit a very hard wall there. um so it's generally this trade-off. So I'm not saying that uh this is, it couldn't be any better. I think it could be better. Some of it's kind of a trade-off that you're getting yourself into with comp time. Comp time in general is based on the idea that code that does not get referenced in a build shouldn't be alive, shouldn't be analyzed, and that laziness, which gives you a lot of good things in comp time, it detracts a little bit in other cases, right? For example, if you write a function in Zig that is not being referenced anywhere, you will get syntax errors, but you will not get the function will not even be type checked by the compiler, because as long as it's not being used, the compiler doesn't care what's in there past the syntax. The syntax has to be correct. So so that's kind of like the trade-offs that we're playing with. It should be an easy option to run everything, like Zig build test all or something. I think that this is something along the lines of the simplification that people have been discussing. The idea being that the file has to be part of the build, and then the act of collecting tests is done in a more proactive way by the compiler, even if they are not, like, without requiring you to reference them in a tree. I think that is the type of simplification that people have been discussing. This cannot work, because in Zig, files in a directory are not automatically part of that build. Files that are part of a build are, like in Go, for example, having a file in a directory is guarantees that the file gets picked up, analyzed, and everything else, and can be referenced. In Zig, it doesn't work that way. Is a file that is never imported never gets read. So so that means that having a like file based inclusion system, I believe that is. I don't think that is compatible with the competition model of Zig. But the first one that you mentioned, with the idea that, or rather, you know what? I don't know what you had in mind behind how you would expect Zig build test all to work. But the idea of saying, yes, the file has to be imported from somewhere. Like the import chain has to exist for the files themselves. But then you don't have to replicate that for within test blocks. I think that part is possible, and is it's not like actively being considered right now, but this has been mentioned in discussions as something that could potentially be implemented or, well, simplified compared to status quo. So there you go. Yeah, that's precisely what I'm talking about. So not the idea is importing a file automatically pulls in its tests. That would be it. So give me a sec. I'll have a very quick bathroom break, and then I'm gonna start doing some actual work. Okay, I'm back. So, let's see if we can get the server to crash by messing around with clients. And if we can get the server to crash, oh, you know what? We might try to get ahead of the game, and we might attach a debugger to it already. Come on, bro. Hello? Okay. Okay, so we're attached. We're already ahead of the game. I don't know. Let's see if we can kill the server. I think it was some kind of join leave. Oh shit. You know what happened? We got disconnected because we were spamming actions way too fast. I have a extremely aggressive rate limiter turned on in the server, and that disconnected us. That also had the unfortunate side effect of getting us out of sync because we got disconnected, but the client doesn't have the thing where, okay, being disconnected means that we have implicitly left the call. So now the client is in a weird state. Now, what will happen when we leave? I don't know. We'll see. So far so good. And we can join. And we can leave. So you know what? I don't think I'm gonna be able to. I don't think I'm gonna be able to repro that crash. Damn. Frankly, I would not have expected to get to a point where my software would be not buggy enough to let me reproduce a bug, a crash. But such is the day. Such is life. You know, either you abandon your project young enough that you can still easily repro every single bug, or you live long enough to start having more latent bugs, I guess, as they say. Man, this thing is rock solid. By the way, as we're doing this join and leave testing, we're also testing that the new code that adds a ring buffer between the audio thread and join leave requests is also behaving correctly. And holy shit, is that thing good. I can't repro it. You know what? We are starting slowly to encroach into the territory of we're gonna need some proper, well, people call it DST. I don't know if I love the name. We're gonna need some fuzzing. We're gonna need to essentially do some good fuzzing. And DST is a subset of good fuzzing. So can't repro it trivially. Is there a way to write some kind of end-to-end tests? That is a good question. So the answer is it should be possible. We don't have right now all the infrastructure set up for that with a Weibo, but the client is instantiable. So we can instantiate the client. We do not have the ability for now to have, for example, the persistence layer be fully virtualized. But I think we could do that. You know, you just do the work to make that happen. It's not that hard. And then that means that now you can have a test that instantiates a client. The state around that client can be fully virtualized. So, you know, you can guarantee that you don't create garbage on your hard drive and whatnot. Or you know what? Worst case, you could even just create a temporary directory for every client that you create. So one way or another, you can make that happen. Then the server also can be instantiated. But the idea is that in this case, what we would want to do is you just spin up the server, and then you essentially you drive interaction from the clients, right? That's usually how you want to do this. Although, you know what, that's an interesting perspective. What about testing where you try to drive things from the server? Would that make sense? What can you initiate from the server? Anyway, sorry, setting that aside. Then essentially you would call a bunch of functions from the client, and that works. And when I say client, I mean a headless client, so a client without the GUI interface. The client is separate from the GUI, so you can create a headless client, and then inside your headless client, you would just call into things that make things happen with the server. So you join the server, join a call, leave the call. Maybe you create multiple clients, you have them join the call and leave the call on their own accord, that kind of stuff. So that is not implemented yet in Awebo. It should be implementable. I would say that also probably is something worth looking into sooner than later. Not today, but yeah. So yeah, totally doable. And frankly, the fact that this is fast software would help you have these things, have this testing routine not take forever. Injecting network errors into these tests. Yeah, with a so that is, by the way, that is an interesting point. I guess injecting network errors could be done in two ways, right? We have two abstraction layers, two main abstraction layers to work at. One is actually, well, we really have two main ones. There are many available at our disposal that we could fuck with, but the two main ones would be we could implement we could have an IO implementation that fucks up network connections at that layer, or higher level, we could have a pluggable network abstraction of our own where that could introduce errors in a more semantic manner. So the difference would be that the lower level one would be, it would be more easy to express in there the concept of that UDP packet was lost. That TCP connection got reset. While with a higher level abstraction, what could we do at a higher level abstraction to cause errors? With a higher level abstraction, we could here's what we could do with that in a way that it would be maybe interesting. Or you know what? Maybe it's not a matter of abstracting the network layer, but another network related testing that could be done would be test the server against a spastic client, where the idea is, the client leaves a call that he never joined, and then tries to join twice the same call, and then it essentially it starts performing operations that make no sense, and then you see how the server reacts. And some of these tests could be, hard coded. Like you could literally have a unit test that says, okay, try to leave a call that you never joined. Let's guarantee that that doesn't cause problems. But then also some of that could be just straight up fuzzing. And here's why I think this would be also cool. I have a decent amount of experience writing fuzzing for my parsers. And I feel like I have a good handle on how you stress specific parts of the parser. So the tokenizer, the parser, I said parser, but also some of these things also do analysis. So how to stress these different sections. And I think that doing fuzz testing where server and client are in the same process, you know what that gives you? That gives you code coverage guidance. You can have code coverage guided fuzzing across client and server. They will still chat to one another over a socket unless we build an abstraction to explicitly try to make that more efficient. But I don't think that is, at least from where I stand right now, that doesn't seem critical to do. But the fact that they are both in the same process, they are the same program, that means that you get coverage guided fuzzing across client server interactions. And that is awesome. That is absolutely awesome, because that allows me to write a forge, sorry, not the forge, what's called a smithy. In any case, to restrict the vocabulary of the fuzzer to focus on what it is that I actually care. So I could have a fuzz test that specifically tests voice call interaction, one that specifically tests channel admin interactions, like create a message, delete a message, react to a message, create a channel, delete a channel, that kind of stuff. And then obviously these restricted ones, if you design them well, they will be good at testing a specific subset of functionality. That still leaves you, that doesn't cover what happens at the seams of these systems. So you will still want to have a generic everything goes fuzzing routine. But also having the focused ones helps you cover ground so much faster than you would otherwise. Like the fuzzing can be laser focused. You have to design essentially the experiment yourself in correctly. But once you do, it's fucking unbeatable. Do you have some kind of guideline? What should a new low-level dev try to do in C to solve some of its difficulties before switching to a better language like Zig or Odin, if at all? Hello, Caribbean. A new low-level dev tried to do in C to solve some of its difficulties before switching to a better language. Can you share a little bit more about your situation? As in, are you studying? Are you working? Are you describing yourself as a new low-level dev, meaning that are you like studying computer science, and so you're a new programmer who also wants to learn low-level programming as part of the way you're learning programming in general? Or do you have previous experience doing web dev, for example? When you say low level, do you mean systems level programming in the context of like big computers and servers, or embedded? Oh, or game dev, right? I worked in web dev for 6 years, now learning low level by making a 3D game. I see, understood. What should you try to do in C before switching to another language? So I think that I'll give you my answer, which, might apply to different people to different degrees. So I'm not saying that is the ultimate truth. But if you were to ask my opinion, I would argue that you probably don't need to learn any C before doing any Zig or Odin or other languages. I would restrict my answer to Zig because that is what I know best. And I suggest you ask the same question again to people that are more knowledgeable with Odin and other languages to see what they think in those communities. But when it comes to Zig, my recommendation is just start using Zig. You will have to contend with the fact that it's a language that is not stable yet. It's a growing ecosystem. So not everything will be, you will not find necessarily written books about everything. But on the other hand, it's a new thing. It's very healthy, it's a very vibrant community. So You can join a Discord server and get unblocked. You can join the Ziggit forum and also get unblocked there, like whenever you have a question. You mentioned game dev. There are multiple communities about game dev. There's multiple frameworks depending on how you want to tackle these things. For example, there's Zig Game Dev. This one, I'm not a game developer, so I'll try to give you my impression of these projects, but be aware that my impressions are limited by the fact that I don't do that professionally. I don't know almost anything about game dev, but this one to me seems like a collection of libraries for people that are experienced doing game dev and they just want to hit the ground running, being able to use either things that they already know or close equivalents. So here, for example, the game dev contains all these things like Z bullet, which is bindings for bullet physics. So chances are that, you know, if you're experienced with bullet physics, there you go, you have it. Same with GLFW, you know, Dawn, DRM GUI, Fast Noise Light, OpenVR, Jolt Physics, Flex, Mini Audio, and so on and so forth. So they have all this stuff. So that's one. Another one is Mac Engine. Mac Engine is more of a game engine from first principles. So they have a community. And I think that Mac Engine is a very ambitious project that is not yet complete. And so you will find that if you want to use Mac Engine for something, maybe it will fit your needs, maybe it won't, depending on, you know, how complicated is the stuff that you want to make. But I would suggest to join the community regardless. Like, even if you don't plan to use Mac Engine, I recommend joining the Discord. There is more out there, but I don't remember anything off the top of my head. In any case, do that, join the main communities. And I think that you will have a good time. At the very least, because with Zig is absolutely trivial to integrate with the C libraries, right? So at the very least, what you can do with Zig Game Dev is just have access to all the C dependencies, and obviously, there is a fair argument to be made that using C libraries from another language is more jank than using a C library from C. As a general idea, right? It's like you're doing the same thing with extra steps. Might as well just go directly to the source. In the case of Zig, I think there's a fair argument to be made that it's a big statement. So you have to decide on your own if you want to buy this argument or not. But in my opinion, and not just in my opinion, I think I'm going to link you a talk from Andrew, but I do agree with Andrew that it's easier to use C from Zig than to use C from C. You have defer in Zig, you have error codes, you have better pointer types, you have more runtime checks by default. You have a tool chain that allows you to build C projects in a fully self-contained manner in a way that C just does not have. So I'll link you the talk if you want to take a look at it. But this is one reason why I believe that it's better to just do straight up Zig. Then if you're using a C library, that means that you're not going to be safe from having to learn some of the C isms. If you use C libraries, you will have to deal with C concepts. But you will find that Zig will always make it easy for you to interact with those. Oh shit. Well, there's a time of 2 seconds in there. Sorry. Let's see. Got fired a few months ago. Would be nice to learn at least some lower level stuff to get some kind of job other than web. Yeah, it's tough. I guess I'll switch language when I feel like without much worrying. Yeah, I would say so. Making stuff in C, like a memory arenas, custom string logic seems fun and educational. By the way, you would do the same also in Zig, or rather, in Zig, you wouldn't necessarily make your own arena. Nothing can stop you from doing it. So you can totally do it. Like if you want to do it for learning purposes, you can totally do it. But the thing is, you wouldn't have a need to do that because the Zig ecosystem is, despite being younger, it's less bare bones than the C ecosystem in that sense. Or rather, there are arena implementations also in the C ecosystem. They already exist. But you know, in Ziggy, there's a package manager. It would be easier to depend on it. But regardless, with arenas specifically, it's in the standard library. So the fact that everything in the Zig standard library understands the concept of memory allocators, it's good because it means that you can use the hash map implementation in the Zig standard library and have it run on whatever memory allocator you need. An arena, a normal malloc style general purpose allocator, something else, a buffer of bytes on the stack. I don't know. That also you can do if you want. It's called the buffer allocator, I think. In any case, it's in the standard library. So yeah. The only thing that I think, and yeah, whether it's Odin or Zig, you know, whatever floats your boat. The only, I think, difference between Odin and Zig that is relevant is the degree of interoperability that each language has with C. Or rather, the interoperability itself, I believe it's probably roughly the same when it comes to like just being able to output a function that follows the C API, for example, or stuff like that. But what Zig has going for it that is interesting is that the Zig compiler can compile C code. The Zig build system can build C projects. So you can depend on a C library, and that doesn't require you to also have a make or a C make or a batch script or some janky shit that doesn't work on all the operating systems. To give you one concrete example, this is not, I mean, Awebo itself, you know what? Awebo itself is an example of that, except that right now it's suffering from a few regressions. But let me bring up an example that doesn't have regressions. Zine is my static site generator, and it has a few dependencies. Most of them are it's just my own code that I split off in a separate project because it made sense for it to be a separate project. But some of are actually C projects. I think there are two relevant examples, actually three maybe. One is Woofs. Woofs is a C++ library that I'm depending on for being able to learn image width and height of a bunch of different file formats. Woofs implements all of this, so I use that, at least for now. Another example, which you don't see here directly, it's through a dependency, is the CMark markdown parser. That is a C library. And then the last one is hidden, quote unquote, hidden behind this other dependency called flow syntax, and that is three-seater. I have a bunch of three-seater grammars that I use in the static site generator to provide syntax highlighting of code snippets at build time. So instead of having a JavaScript library do that at runtime, that happens once as we're building. So three-seater is a C project. And how does this work? I'm gonna grab Woofs as the example, but the same applies to also the other ones. We have an organization called All Your Code Base. The name is a joke on, it's the meme, from Zero Wing. All your base are belong to us, because they say Zig, so there's a bunch of these memes floating around the Zig ecosystem. So we mentioned Woofs. So Woofs, if you look at this, Woofs depends on literally a release of of the upstream project, of the official project. And then we have our own build script for it. Wait, holy shit, this is so simple. Why is this so simple? Oh, wait, do they really do a amalgamation? Holy shit. Never mind. These people are geniuses. Well, there you go. They made it easy this time. So it turns out that to compile whoops, it's easy. And actually, it's not even C++. It's C. What the fuck? Okay. So whoops is a single C file. So we build it, and the build script is also pretty simple, delightful. It's not always that easy. Let me find you another example. Let's look at Opus. This one I made myself. Opus, the codec, yeah, FFmpeg, yeah, that would be another example. So Opus depends on the upstream Opus project. Also, there's they have neural networks in there as well. So now there's also a model that you can depend on if you turn on the corresponding features. So the build script is more involved because they have a bunch of options. And if you want to, provide the same flexibility, you also have to implement the same toggles. And also, this is a library that relies on CPU feature sets. So you also need to do a little bit of extra work to account for all the different instruction sets that it depends on. But in any case, you do some work, and then it's packaged and buildable from the Zig build system. And guess what? This bad boy builds from pretty much all the major platforms for all the major platforms. This is the CI command. This is essentially the test routine that gets run by the CI. And the CI literally builds the library a bunch of times for this matrix of targets from the same machine, right? So this you run this once on Linux, and this one will build for macOS, ARM, macOS x64, Linux, ARM, Linux x64, and then Windows. So this is neat. This you don't get from Odin. You don't even get this from a C compiler. The funny part is that a C compiler doesn't give you this, which is kind of crazy. So this is nice because this means that you have a C dependency. The C dependency is not annoying to use because it doesn't complicate your build system. You have to do the work to build it right. But once it's done then that C dependency becomes just another part of your project that doesn't break cross compilation, doesn't cause trouble. Yeah, and that is a nice superpower that you get from Zig. That's kind of the one unique thing that Zig gives you. Okay, end of story. You just need to learn the build system API. Yes. The thing is, it's not trivial to create these build scripts. It's not impossible. It's totally doable. I learned how to do this myself. It's not something I knew how to do it before. Another question. Feel free to ask, unless you're going away, but there's no problem. But yeah, so it's not trivial to write these things, but it's doable. And the thing is, you only have to do it once. So projects, organizations like all your code base are nice because they are essentially a repository of this work already having been done once. Easier than CMake. I don't have experience directly, but yeah, every time I have to read CMake, it gives me headaches. It's annoying. And also CMake projects don't cross compile. I believe that CMake on paper has the ability to support cross compilation, but man, they never fucking do. They never support it. So I don't know. I don't like CMake. I mentioned Zig game dev before, right? Zig game dev, they have all these dependencies on C projects, and I'm pretty sure that Zig game dev essentially does the same. They are like a tiny all your code base specialized on game dev dependencies. So like Z math, you know what? Maybe this one is a little bit weird. Z physics Bindings for Jolt C. Okay. Jolt physics. How does it work? Oh, they don't depend on the original on the upstream project as a dependency. They have it in here. Okay, they essentially vendor the upstream dependency, but ultimately it's the same deal, right? They write the build script, and now it works. Well, that's it. In any case, don't worry. Feel free to ask questions. These streams are for interacting with people mainly. Also, I mean, what I have in here is investigating Linux screen share. Man, that is a nightmare. Holy shit, that is a nightmare. Why don't you contribute to the compiler? I haven't seen your commits for a long time. Good question. So, the answer is, as part of contributing to the Zig project in an effective manner, it's harder for me to contribute to the compiler because contributing to the compiler requires focusing on, a specific part of the compiler, which is complicated, and essentially spending a lot of time working on one thing to do it well. And that is tough. It's doable. I could do it. The thing is, the other guys at the ZSF are really good at that. So when I have to decide what to do next, on one hand, I could try to work on something in the compiler and essentially, shadow maybe Jacob Lee or Mlog and try to follow them and, maybe carve my own niche where I can become the de facto maintainer of a particular subsystem. The thing is, though, that it is fucking hard because they go real fast, and I have necessarily the need to have periods of time where I am doing something else. I'm helping organizing events. I'm going to a Zig day. I'm helping with software you can love. A variety of other things that from time to time take me away from programming for, I don't know, a week or two, for example. Sometimes more. And that is problematic. So the conclusion is that what I can contribute to the project, that in a sense is more of my unique thing. So it's not like a worse version of what MLAG can already do. It tends to boil down to other things that aren't working on the compiler, at least for now. So we have agreed to that we do want to have a tool for running the development of Zig. That is not so. Right now, I'm talking about the social chat stuff. So right now at the ZSF, we chat on Zulip and we have calls on Jitsi, and we don't like this setup. We would very much prefer to have something like Discord, except that a bunch of people have already left Discord and they don't want to have to deal with Discord. So the work that I'm doing with Awebo is not just my own project for my own fancy or just to show you here's what in theory we could do. It's literally so that we can have a tool that we can use in the Zig core team to conduct our own business in a better way. I'm kind of missing the compiler meetings from Discord. That is a good point. Yes. I mean, in theory, we could still have compiler meetings outside of Discord, but having a handy tool for this stuff really does facilitate social interactions. That is real. The fact that we don't have a voice channel where you can just join there as you're working on something to show that you're available to chat in case that anybody else wants has, for example, dramatically reduced the amount of interactions that we have in the core team, during the week. compared to before. Back when we had that we were on Discord, it would be much more likely that we would, just join a voice channel, chat a little bit, collaborate a little bit, and then and then people go their own way. That happens a lot less now. I mean, obviously, we chat via text. There are issues, like collaboration still happens, but it has changed in nature a little bit. So Awebo is a concrete attempt at trying to fill that hole. As we were shopping for a different Git Forge after leaving GitHub, like in the last few weeks before we started looking into Radical, we were actually floating the idea of literally attempting a Git Forge from scratch. We have considered the idea, because the problem is that, okay, we left GitHub because CI was absolutely falling apart. Then we switched to Codeberg, but Codeberg also has its own problems. Namely, people apparently lately have had real trouble forking Zig. Like literally, you go to Codeberg, you try to fork Zig, and it doesn't work. And forking is the step one for sending a pull request using the normal workflow. So now there's an alternative workflow called the agit workflow that allows you to send APR without having to fork the other repository first, which works on Codeberg, doesn't work on GitHub because GitHub sucks. But that is essentially cope. Like these are like compensating for issues that we shouldn't have in the first place. So we were looking for alternatives, and essentially the blog post that I wrote, this one, this is essentially like this is my report. It is shaped as a blog post for people to read, but this is essentially a report that I wrote, collecting information about the landscape of possible forges and trying to see what I think is what are the pros and cons of each, and trying to form a coherent idea of what else Radical, for example, could give us other than being a forge. One thing that makes Radical really interesting, actually, from my perspective, the key thing that makes Radical interesting is the fact that it's not just a reasonably interesting take on what a distributed forge could look like, but it also solves the problem of allowing us to have a distributed packages, right? Because Zig doesn't have a centralized package index. We depend on Git repositories directly, and the problem is that these things go down. GitHub goes down all the fucking time. Codeberg goes down fairly regularly. Random people's self-hosted Forjo instances don't really go down because they don't sustain much traffic, so they usually chug along happily until that person burns out and decides that they want to, open a farm upstate, and so they stop renewing their server bill, and now that Forjo is down forever. So that is a problem, and that is a problem that we have not been trying to solve yet, because the package manager, a lot of things are still in flux in the Zig ecosystem, but it is a problem that eventually we would have to face one way or another. And my argument is that having a centralized package index is a horrible choice, that if you can avoid it, it would be so much better. And I realized after learning, studying a little bit all the other options, and in the end Radical specifically, that there are better ways of doing it. And like this is a real problem, because in particular this section here of the blog post, I think it's relevant. Even Go, I think that Go is the most interesting example of them all, because Go started with the same approach that we have. They also started with the idea that you just paste the URL, right, of a package, and now you depend on it. And then whenever you clone a Go project and you run go build. I don't remember anymore, but you run whatever command you have to run to build your Go project. That will download that. Well, that would originally download the package from the URL that you specified. But then they also had to face this problem, and their end solution was a centralized index with extra steps. And they can do it. They're Google. They have a lot of money, and yes, they can solve it. In my opinion, this whole setup that they have it's interesting. But in hindsight, with the benefit of hindsight, like if for example, in 2019, the Go team had hired me to try and find a solution to this problem, I am not confident at all that I would have been able to come up with a better answer. But with the benefit of hindsight, I think that today we can say that, yeah, this solution is not great. I think that Radical would be significantly better. Is Radical built in Rust? Yes, it is. Okay, did I answer the question? Let's see. Agri community building is also a big way to contribute. Thanks for your contribution. Well, thank you. Thank you for the question. I mean, your question is absolutely fair. And by the way, this is something that I do think about myself on the daily. Yeah. How does CI work with Radical? It can totally work. It's nothing crazy to make it work. I believe that the tooling is still work in progress today. So, in some ways they are kind of like Zig, where you can do a lot of things, but most things are not yet, the final fully polished version yet. So you kind of have to have an early adopter mindset. That being said, what is Radical? It's written it's spelled differently, but here's a answer for you. Okay, so if you just want to learn about it, you can go to radical. Oh my god, radical.dev. I don't know why I became unable to spell. So this is how you spell Radical. So you can go on the website and learn about it. It's a peer-to-peer thing where, in my opinion, just reading what they say will not give you enough of a clear picture in mind, unless you happen to be somebody that already groks these type of concepts easily. If you want a different way of learning about it, in the context of Zig, I recommend my blog post. I'm gonna send this also on YouTube. Okay, so let's answer the question of how does Radical work when it comes to CI. So Radical.network, explore, Radical CI broker. Okay, so here's how it works. Your CI machine needs to have a Radical node running. That Radical node has to be set to essentially seed the repository that you care about, or repositories. But for simplicity, let's assume one repository. Then you run this service called Radical CI Broker. Radical CI Broker is a thing that essentially reads events from your node. So rad node events. So this is now showing me a list of events as they happen in real time. So some node just announced that they stopped seeding a bunch of nodes. I think that this is activity that is somewhat related to spam. Because obviously, anything internet related has some spam going for it. So the CI broker is like the GitHub runner. Well, it's a little bit more involved. So no, it's actually not the runner. It's everything else except the runner. Sorry. Because the runner is the actual thing that runs on the machine and performs the build, right? But there's a thing that controls runners, and this is what the broker is. The broker is the thing that controls runners. So it essentially listens to events. There's there's a bunch of spam with some node announcing and some other node dropping seeds, or maybe you know what? Maybe it's the same stupid fucking node that it's doing both things at once. Like, who is it that keeps? Yeah, who is it that keeps announcing? Man, I'm gonna ban this motherfucker. Is there? Oh no, I removed the thing there. Oh, cancel. Oh no, it's spamming enough that it's killing my thing. You know what? We can do this. We can do pipe grep inventory. Okay, so these are the announcements. Yeah, this is a node that is announcing a lot of repositories, and it keeps doing it. Inventory announced, and this is the NID. This is the node ID. But in any case, some of these announcements are also about pushes. And the broker sees announcements about changes happening to a repository. So that way it learns that a new tag was created, a new branch was created, a new commit was pushed, that kind of stuff. And then this guy can drive an external CI system. And so there's a few implementations of all these things. Let's say that the simplest one is native CI, where native CI literally means it just runs a command as the result of that event. This might be a little bit too simplistic for what we need in Zig, but like if I were to set up CI for my own purposes, for my own projects, I would probably implement it like this. The most trivial way of implementing it. And then there are a few other different adapters for more sophisticated stuff, like maybe you would want some containerization so that it doesn't poop itself, or maybe you want to find a way to leech off GitHub Actions somehow. Or what you could do that would be really funny. You have the broker set up to push to GitHub. I mean, you could push to GitHub yourself, but you could alternatively have the CI push to GitHub and then have GitHub Actions run. It's janky, it's silly, and it would be essentially a way to keep consuming free resources. But in any case, these are the options that are currently here, and obviously you can, I guess, implement your own adapter if you want to. I think you missed this at the beginning of the stream. I might. I wonder if you have any news regarding ranged integers. No, sorry, I don't have any. This has not been part of discussions in the last few months. I think right now the main things are self-hosted backends, incremental compilation, new build system architecture, and how that relates to ZLS. Some other relatively minor changes to the language. So, tweaking the semantics of certain things, and nothing that really changes your day as a user. Where to go, what to do with regards to our GitForge. These are being the main things that we have been worrying about. That at least that comes to mind. Okay, so yeah, but in any case, range integers has not lost any support as far as I'm aware. So like there has been no progress, but also there has been no like loss of confidence on the idea or something like that, in the idea or something like that. Implementing regularly in Zig has been fun. Yeah, I I watched some of your work, Quint. That's really cool. By the way, do you think you're gonna try your hand also at implementing it once they switch to IRO? I'm guessing that if they switch to IRO, it probably might be better to depend on IRO rather than implement also IRO. Maybe, but I don't know. You definitely are better positioned to know this better than I do. Still need to look at it. Okay, so I hope I answered the CI question. Okay, while we're doing radical stuff, you know what? I'm gonna also reply to this. Oh, Andrew commented. I'd say this is enough. So thank you for trying radical with us. Oh, I can archive it this way. How does this work? Okay, I imagine that I can select here archive. I'm curious what this looks like on the CLI. Okay, enough from inventory announce is. Oh, there we go. Here's some announcements that are not spam. So these announcements from above, where there's like this repo that announces having everything under the sun, it's not guaranteed to be wrong because um, some nodes really do have a lot of things. Some nodes have a fully open seeding policy, so they seed pretty much everything that they get their hands on. But yeah, these are much more realistic. Like these are normal nodes announcing that they have, you know, one or two things, the things that they care about. Anyway, um, rad patch. So how do you archive it? Mark patch as archived. Okay, so you don't close it, you archive it. I just wanted to make sure that I did not misunderstand the meaning of things. Okay, so I'm just gonna be lazy, do that from the GUI. That has been archived. So if you go on the website, it shows up archived. There we go. Okay. Cool. We did this. So how do we investigate Linux screen share? I think the story with Linux screen share starts at it has to start at Pipewire, right? I think this is the story. Statically linking Pipewire, right? Tuple, by the way, is roughly in the same business that we are. Let's say that they are in the screen share business, as a very general thing. So yeah, they've also been using apparently Mason's statically linked Pipewire. So Tuple needs to talk to Pipewire for screen capture, and Pipewire makes heavy use of DL open. So statically linking isn't an option, or is it? So I open sourced a build as a configuration that generates a static build of Pipewire here. And I believe this is all your code base. Indeed. There's a PR for Zig 016? Wait, what is this? Holy shit. No, wait. Holy shit. Holy shit indeed. Oh no. What are the chances that this is gonna work trivially? Whew. Zero. God damn it, man. All your code base valgrind.h? What? Also, what is Zin? Wait, isn't that the chewing gum that people make jokes about? Ask Copilot about this repository. What is this? There's bounded array. Um, well, you know what we could do? Here's one way of learning about it. Wait, did it have also macOS listed in here? It does. It does, and it doesn't poop itself. Okay. We're going vintage Zig. Man, I should put on, I should turn my webcam black and white. Um Dress up like an 80s detective or something. Go all noir. Um there's no run, okay? There's no Zig out. What's going on? Test Win32 window. What is that? I don't know. That's what I'm trying to figure out. I guess it's just something that starts a window. You wanna read the article? Yeah, it's from Mason. Do. There you go. Okay, so that, I guess that just opens a window, kinda. Whoops. Okay, let's clone Pipewire. So I think that really Linux Screen Share starts at getting this library to build for 017. Oof. Um, you know what? That's fair. We should do that in Linux. Okay, sorry, chat. There's not going to be Bork on the side for now. I can still read chat though. Don't worry. Waiting for webcam. Oh, about that. I do have a webcam, but I guess I would have to plug it out and plug it in, and then say, yeah, fuck it, let's try. Okay, let's see if I'm gonna get the thing about it. Hmm. Huh. Oh, interesting. You can even do it virtually. Okay. I think there might be some more fuzzing needed on my end to make this work. So never mind. What about audio source? Oh, this is just detecting devices. Okay. Okay. So it seems that it's I don't know, more work to get this working, and also I think that yeah, the webcam part is not what we care about. We care about screen share first and foremost. But let's read Mason's blog post because I haven't read it in a while, and there's some important stuff in there that maybe will help us, will aid us in our future quest to upgrade this to Zig 017. So the challenge, let's see, to talk to your system's pipewire daemon, you're expected to speak pipewire's protocol. The most straightforward way to do this is to link with their shared library, which implements the protocol. Awesome. We don't want to do this. Oh no, because that introduces a dependency on the system's dynamic linker path, and the dynamic linker path can vary across distros. Right? We were on NixOS there, and everything was working. And I mean, I think that if you compile on NixOS, stuff tends to work fine regardless. But yeah, we would have totally been able to cross compile and make that work. Um, and that would not have been true with a dynamic executable. There's nothing fundamental about the Pipewire client library's goals that require dynamic linking, but unfortunately for us, it was implemented assuming a dynamic linker would always be present. In particular, this implementation includes two separate plugin systems that implement much of the core functionality: Pipewire modules and SPA plugins. Pipewire module is effectively a Pipewire client in an .so file that shares the context with the loading entity. Okay. List of known modules: access, adapter, AVB, client device, client node, combined stream, echo cancel, example filter, example stuff, filter chain, jack. So jack support is through a module. Pulse, AirPlay. What's SPA? X11 Bell? What? SPA plugins. What's a SPA plugin? What does SPA stand for? Simple plugin API. Is an extensible API to implement all kinds of plugins. How does how do they differ from modules? SPA was designed with the following goals in mind: no dependencies, very efficient both in space and time, very configurable and usable in many different environments, consistent API, extensible. The original user of SPA is Pipewire, which uses SPA to implement the low-level multimedia processing plugins, device detection, main loops, CPU detection, logging, and other things. SPA, however, can be used outside of Pipewire with minimal problems. Then what are modules? I'm confused. Anyway, both of these plugin systems use DLOpen to dynamically load share libraries at runtime. All of the plugins are provided by Pipewire itself, so they don't need to be in separate shared libraries, but they are. And the implementation relies on these in various ways, and there's quite a bit of code here, so don't want to rework it manually. Running the video play example requires loading 2 SPA plugins and 6 Pipewire modules. The audio source example, contributed by JM Stevers, is similar. In practice, these are a small fraction of the plugins modules available, and as you use more, you'll need more. Yeah. This leaves us with a difficult situation. We could sidestep all this by writing our own Pipewire client, and we may do that eventually. Johnny Marler had a project for this, but it's 404. Okay. Is there a way to leverage the existing code in the meantime to get a quicker solution? Let's see. Zig build system. I'm going to skip. We know what that looks like. So high level approach. At the end of the day, Pipewire can only do anything dynamic by talking to the system. It's running on through a well-defined API. We don't need to change the internal guts of Pipewire. We just need to give it an alternate implementation of that API that never calls into the dynamic linker. In particular, we need to replace the following functions provided by dlfcn.h. Holy shit. Okay, so he's faking DLOpen and company. Okay, so when you compile Pipewire, you give it fake implementations of this, and then you statically link everything. And then when they call DLOpen, you have a table that maps the string name of the dynamic library that doesn't exist to an address in the executable. And I guess same for all the other things. Okay, let's go on that adventure. If you can implement these functions in a way that doesn't require any dynamic linker, then nothing should be able to stop us from building Pipewire statically. Yep. No more of these. Okay. Here's a strategy. For example's sake, let's assume that we have a C library that tries to load mylib.so, other lib.so at runtime. Once it loads them, it will try to access the symbols foo, bar, and buzz. Okay. Yeah. Keep track of the symbols in a map that points to their location in memory. Yeah. So you have 2 layers, right? Upper layer is library name to its symbols, and then symbol name to its pointer. Right. But how do you make this industrialized process? Let's see. Let's implement DLOpen. Yeah, DLOpen. You give me the path, make a string, make a slice out of it, grab it from libraries. Right, and then you return an you return a type arrays pointer, because in any case this thing deals in like opaque pointers regardless. So yeah, then you have to pass the handle to the thing that resolves symbols. So you pass in the handle, you cast it back, grab the name, the symbol name, and then you just get the symbol from the symbol table. Yeah, that sounds straightforward. But how do you do the first part? DL close doesn't do anything. Yeah, sounds good. Okay, this should be enough for a first pass, but how do we get the C library to actually call our methods instead of the ones provided by the libc? Right, you need to make external functions, and then you need to you need to swap them in, right? With the preprocessor. Oh, they even allow you to specify those? I wait. Actually, no. This is not something that they have prepared for, right? This is us literally pulling the rug underneath the source code. Holy shit. This is brutal. Okay. Making our fake linker more conformant. Okay. There's no way for Pipewire to know whether our linker is real as long as we follow the spec. Yeah. However, we ignore some things that in the spec up until this point. Let's fix up that now. I don't care. If you don't care about the details, skip this section. Okay. First off, you're allowed to pass null path to DL open. When you do this, you're supposed to get a handle to the main program. Oh shit. We'll handle this case by creating a constant main program name and then adding a new library of that name to our symbol table. Okay, so we hard code it. But then how do you get symbols from your own program? Okay, so that part is still not explained. I'm looking forward to once we get there. Let's in DL open, so we check for null and add some debug logs for good measure. Sure. Next, DL sim is allowed to accept two special handles: RTLD default, RTLD next, RTLD south. Pipewire doesn't use default and south. Cool. But it does make use of next. The fuck is next? You can read the spec for what this feature does here. Okay. Find the next occurrence of the desired symbol in the search order after the current object. This allows one to provide a wrapper around a function in another shared object so that, for example, the definition of a function in a preloaded shared object can find and invoke the real function provided in another shared object, or for that matter, the next definition of the function in cases where there are multiple layers of preloading. Why is dynamic linking like this? Why are these people like this? This is like web server middlewares, but worse. Holy shit. Okay. First. So how do we do this? We're going to just add another library in our table for it. Lastly, null is a valid value for a symbol, so we need to also set up an error flag when we find a symbol that it's impossible to disambiguate. This case is what? Okay, so default self unimplemented, RTLD next. RTLD next name. Okay. But this doesn't seem to account for the fact that there could be multiple implementations, right? Because our hash map didn't have like array list or something for symbols. It just had one thing. Oh, well. Okay, we'll see. Okay. We also wired up DL info to panic. Okay. Now that I have a dynamic linker, we just need to wire it up to Pipewire by adding the real symbols. Yes. Unfortunately, we immediately hit an issue. Every SPA plugin defines SPA handle factory enum and SPA log topic enum, and every Pipewire module defines Pipewire module init. This is going to result in a lot of duplicate symbol errors if we try to statically link all of these implementations. Oh shit. No worries, we'll just use the preprocessor again, this time to namespace these symbols. For example, libpipewire module blah 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 becomes... Okay, prefix this with the module name. If we do this, we'll find the Pipewire is still failing to load its modules and plugins. Why? Well, it turns out the Pipewire is checking for the existence of the shared libraries with stat before calling DL open. Why? I guess to provide you so that it doesn't crash. I don't know. Well, whatever. I'm not sure why it's doing this. This check seems redundant, but we can easily work around it by wrapping by faking stat as well. Yeah, let's no op stat. Okay. Oh, he even checks for real. He doesn't even no op it. Okay. While we're here, it's not strictly necessary, but we can also wrap fstop, mmap, and munmap to trick pipeware into reading the client config from an embedded file instead of searching around the file system for it. Okay, so that's it. We now have a fully working statically linked build of pipewire. Jesus. Closing thoughts. The power interfaces is they can be replaced. Yeah. The power of C is that it sucks, but it sucks good. It sucks enough that it sucks what they give you, and you can give them back. You can hit them back with something else that sucks. um, Wait a second. Mason didn't answer how he's collecting symbol names though. Is he parsing header files? Or are they wait, no, because it's because the symbols are all hard coded. I think I get it. They are all hard coded, right? Well, I guess we can look at the source code. Support, video convert, audio convert. Oh, they add them one by one. Adapter, client device, client node, session manager. Include and install the library headers. Install the library. Create a translatability module for importing pipewire headers into Zig. See the source file for why we're caching this rather than using translate C. Is it because translate C is borked? Yeah. Understandable. I think we're still missing though generate client conf. va.c. Oh, fucking var args. Okay. Fs. These are the wrappers. Format. Okay. Yeah. Okay, they literally hard code those. They compile this information manually. Okay, this is the part that I was curious about, like whether this was somehow automated, but it's not. And I guess it's fine because yeah, it makes sense. These things have essentially ultimately have as their entry point like a couple functions that are well known. So yeah, you can curate them manually. Why does this fail? Dump coefs fails to compile. Oh shit. There's no error sign minimal. What's the old name for this? Byteswap.h file not found. Oh, I think this is being built native. We're cross-compiling for x86-64. This is being built native. But the problem is that this is being built native and also it needs to run. So that's a problem. But I mean, it's kind of a problem, but also at the same time, you only run Pipewire on like if we were to build a web, we wouldn't be building Pipewire while building for macOS. But we might want to cross compile. So this does break cross compilation, that's for sure. Huh. Interesting. 1770. That's a good year for the Z compiler. Like wine. Okay. Dot temp. Holy shit. So yeah, these packages need some work, that's for sure. This one is fine. This one is fine. Actually, is it valgrind.h that is weird, or is it Zin? No, wait. Oh. Is that version of Ziggin 32 that is so old? Zig X? Okay, this net of dependencies has some old code in there, that's for sure. And also some of it seems to be just about examples. Wait, what if I build without video play? Okay, we had errors in here because dump coefficients is also in here. Okay. Okay. I just tried building a webhook and it runs into problems on with my system's FFmpeg. Um so Julian, if you are experiencing this, you need to upgrade your version of FFmpeg. And you do need a fairly recent one because we are expecting to find FFV1, which is the lossless codec that is a somewhat recent one. So yeah, sorry, you'll have to do some work, but you can do it. Also, remember that you can uh, you can customize this stuff maybe on your machine. Just the fact that we are depending on a system FFmpeg is a temporary hack. Um, because um, because the one in all your code base is not yet good enough. But in the meantime, yeah, you're gonna need a pretty up to date one. So see if you can update in your system, and if not, just keep some changes locally where you essentially add. Well, you build FFmpeg on your own, which you can do. It's easy, and then you point. You point your build script at it. Essentially, you add lines to specify a custom um, system library path and whatnot. Okay, so here's what I'm gonna do. Today we haven't done much. That's fine. We have chatted a bunch, but we know what the next step is. It's not really investigate Linux screen share. We now know how to phrase this better. The next step is gonna be port AC pipe wire to Zig 0.17. And you know what? Maybe, I don't want to be too optimistic, but there's a chance, just a chance, but there's a chance that we will be able to remove the technical debt of that hard-coded translated header file by upgrading to 0.17. We'll see. So this is going to be the next step. And also then, I guess another related question is, how does screen share work with Pipewire? Like, how do you... Hyperland Wiki. Oh, Jesus. Well, we'll need to learn how to program this because I don't even know how to do that. Screen audio. Oh my god. Okay, we're gonna be able to do it. One step at a time. Just one step at a time. Next step is gonna be this. Port AC Pipewire to Zig 017. And we'll see where that gets us. Okay, thank you all for hanging out, and I will see you all next time. No Zig, so I'm gonna be